The film begins with Valerie, a highly successful motivational speaker who is renowned across the world. Her words bring hope to many, but no one knows the pain she herself is going through. Every night she has terrifying dreams, like someone is pulling her into the water. She has never understood the reason behind these dreams. We then learn about Valerie's family. Her mother passed away years ago, and there is no trace of her father. Her husband, Ruby, loves her deeply. One day, she receives a letter from her village, and the moment she sees it, her mood turns off and her sadness increases. She decides to meet her friend, but that doesn't help her mood either. For some time now, Valerie has been feeling strange changes within herself, like a constant intense itch on her scalp. She is shown taking anti-itching medicine along with birth control pills. However, even after taking the medicine, when the itching doesn't stop, she becomes extremely worried. Valerie then begins searching the internet about her scalp issue. The results terrify her, and in a panic, she shuts her laptop. Soon, another strange thing starts happening to Valerie. Her house becomes infested with ants. She has no idea where these ants are coming from or where they're going. While following the trail of ants, she discovers a tiny house made of ants inside her own home. When she peeks inside, she sees a large number of ants, which horrifies her. The next day, it's revealed that Valerie has to go on an international tour, for which she needs her birth certificate. While checking her documents, she realizes she doesn't have it. It might have been with her mother. So, she visits her aunt to ask about the box her mother supposedly left for her. At her aunt's house, Valerie starts reminiscing about her mother as she's missing her dearly. Her aunt tells her about a locker where the box was kept, but when they reach the locker, the box is gone. Both of them get anxious. Her aunt says, maybe your father came and took the box. That's possible too. Valerie then returns home, leaving everything behind. That night, her scalp starts itching so badly that she scratches it frantically with both hands. Her husband sitting next to her watches this strange behavior with concern. Valerie has no idea what's happening to her. Even the doctors can't find any solid reason for her condition. That's when she starts to think it might be a genetic issue. Maybe her mother had the same problem and now it's showing up in her. Despite everything, Valerie tries to focus on her upcoming international tour. She decides to meet her father. Before leaving, she wears a cap to hide the condition of her scalp from others. She travels to her village and meets her father, who was once a soldier but is now a monk. Valerie asks him, do you know anything about the box mom left for me? Her father replies, no, I don't know anything about that box. During this visit, Valerie notices a strange painting hanging on his wall. When she asks about it, her father begins telling her a story about an entity named Sanchi. Sanchi, it turns out, was a parasite that lived with humans and grew stronger by feeding off their spiritual energy. Once Sanchi took control of someone, it stayed with them until it completely destroyed them. However, Valerie hadn't come for these stories. Before leaving, she secretly steals her father's locker key and opens it without his permission. She doesn't find the box her mother left behind, but she does find her birth certificate. She takes it and prepares to leave. On her way out, she hears the sound of a child crying, as if drowning in water. She follows the sound and reaches a storeroom. Inside the storeroom, many clocks were ticking. She sat down and tried to observe them closely. That's when she felt as if several evil spirits were about to grab her from behind. She felt multiple hands on her shoulders. She got scared and was just about to scream when she suddenly turned around, and the person standing there wasn't a spirit, but the damn guard. This meant that Valerie was experiencing hallucinations. She felt as though someone else was standing alongside her shadow. When she turned around, what she saw frightened her terribly, but she didn't show her feelings in front of anyone there. Now she returned home, but even after coming back, the itching on her scalp didn't stop. She scratched her head so violently that it started to bleed. Robin, her husband, noticed it too. When Robin asked her, Valerie lied. No, nothing like that happened. She made up an excuse for the wound. But as soon as she opened the medicine drawer, Robin noticed the birth control pills inside. Seeing them, an argument broke out between Robin and Valerie. Robin was angry and so was Valerie. She was already struggling with the battle going on inside her. In her anger, she said to Robin, fine, just stay away from me. That would be best. This one statement began creating a rift in their relationship. Now Valerie started staying alone in her room. She decided that she would no longer scratch her head at night. That's why, before sleeping, she tied her own hands so that she couldn't harm her scalp. But when she woke up the next morning, she was shocked. Her hands were untied and once again, she had scratched her scalp to the point of bleeding. Now it became clear to Valerie that whatever was happening to her involved another entity, because untying her hands was not something she could have done herself, which meant someone else had untied them. As soon as she got up, she once again noticed a lot of ants in her house. She became disturbed. Following the trail of ants, she reached their source, their home. Now she wanted to know what exactly these ants were doing and where they were coming from. So she began breaking the wall to uncover the truth. Meanwhile, someone knocked at the door. When she went outside to check, it was her dad standing there. Valerie's dad was very worried about her. He said, "You weren't answering my calls, so I got concerned and came here myself." He wanted to talk to Valerie about something very important, something related to her mother. He began speaking. "Valerie, your mom was a very good person, and today I'll tell you how she died. Years ago, I used to be a soldier. Once, I killed a female soldier from the enemy army. I don't know what kind of power that girl possessed, but after her death, her spirit or some strange energy got attached to me, and through me, it also got attached to your mother. Later I found out that the entity was a sanchi, a parasite that lives with humans and survives by feeding on their spiritual energy. When I came to know about this, I tried very hard to save your mother from the sanchi parasite, but I failed. Then you were born, and at that moment the sanchi parasite entered you. Guilt and sorrow were clearly visible in Dad's eyes. And now, whatever is happening to you, I know all of it. Lately, Valerie had been experiencing very bizarre events, and the sanchi was behind all of them. Her father knew that if Valerie found out everything, she would have a severe reaction. So he mixed sleeping pills into her tea, causing Valerie to fall asleep right there. When Valerie woke up, all the memories came rushing back in a flash. Disturbed, she began searching the internet about her mother's death. That's when she found some old newspaper clippings and documents inside her house. It was clearly written in them that the real reason behind her mother's death was her father, meaning he had murdered her mother. This shattered Valerie completely. Just then, heavy rain began pouring. Valerie went to the upper room to close the windows. As she looked outside through the window, she saw a shadow of her mother. She started witnessing that day vividly, the same day her mother died. She saw her mother struggling and her father forcefully drowning her in water, and that's how her mother died. As soon as Valerie realized this horrifying truth about her father, she immediately rushed to him to avenge her mother's death. She went to his house, threw things around in anger, and demanded, Why did you kill my mother? Her father said, I didn't kill your mother. I was trying to save her from the sanchi. But the sanchi was very powerful. I kept losing. Your mother died while fighting it. But now Valerie could no longer believe anything he said. Her papa continued, Your mother wanted to protect you from that sanchi, and in the process she lost her life. But even in death, she couldn't fulfill her purpose. She couldn't save you from sanchi, and now that same sanchi is with you. To save your life, it's absolutely necessary to destroy her. Before we move forward, don't forget to subscribe, because the next movie is going to be even more mysterious and horrifying. Hearing all this, Valerie was terrified. She left her papa behind and returned home. The next day, she had a huge seminar, the biggest international tour of her life. She didn't want to be a joke on stage or start scratching her head in front of everyone, so she wore a cap to cover her head. The show began. A huge crowd had gathered, and the show had a very high rating. She called a girl up on stage and began her speech. She stood the girl in front of a mirror and said to the audience, Until you recognize the real you inside, you won't be able to do anything. As she spoke, Valerie found herself subconsciously scratching her head inside the cap. During the speech, when she looked into the mirror, she not only saw the reflection of the girl, but also another shadow standing behind her. Seeing this shadow, Valerie was horrified. She knew it was Sanchi. Now that she had seen her with her own eyes, the truth was undeniable. Valerie was overwhelmed with fear. She collapsed, started trembling on the ground, and scratched her head like a maniac. Everyone present was shocked and frightened, as if Valerie had entered another world entirely. Valerie didn't want to make a spectacle of herself anymore. She ran off the stage and got into her car. Even after reaching home, she kept scratching her head. She scratched so hard that a deep wound, a hole, appeared on her scalp. The hole was so deep, she inserted her finger into it. As soon as her finger touched her brain was damaged. She completely lost consciousness and fainted, collapsing to the floor. At that moment, Robbie was at Valerie's house. Seeing her in this state, he panicked and rushed her to the hospital. Because he reached on time, Valerie's life was saved, but her troubles were far from over. That Sanchi parasite was still with her. In the dark and silent environment of the hospital, Sanchi was shown clearly for the first time. She was now on top of Valerie, tormenting her, disturbing her. But this time, Valerie didn't scream. She didn't flinch. Sanchi kept hitting Valerie's head again and again, making her feel intense itching. But Valerie didn't scratch her head. She now knew the truth. She wasn't afraid anymore. She was ready to face it. As Valerie started confronting her fear, her condition slowly began to improve. Sanchi's control over her had weakened. Some of the credit for her recovery went to Robbie too, who was now taking great care of her. He constantly reminded her not to touch her head. In fact, because Valerie had been scratching her head repeatedly, some parts of her body had become paralyzed, especially her legs. She was having trouble walking, but slowly she was learning again. Now, to stop her from scratching while sleeping, Robbie tied her hands. But the next morning when he woke up, he saw that her hands were untied. And the most shocking thing, she had scratched her head again. A pair of scissors was lying nearby. Looking at it, Robbie felt like Valerie had cut her own hands. He was furious. He felt like Valerie didn't want to get better and that he was wasting his time and energy. Valerie tried her best to explain, I didn't do this. Sanchi did. But Robbie wasn't ready to listen anymore. In anger, Robbie left her. Now Valerie was completely alone. She was broken from inside. Her battle wasn't just with Sanchi anymore. It was with herself. She was starting to give up. She needed support. Something, anything, to pull her back up. She remembered she used to motivate others. She began watching her own old motivational videos where she gave strength to others. Watching them brought her a little relief. She made a decision. She would fight this entity Sanchi on her own now. This has to end once and for all. At night, she gave Robbie a sleeping pill and quietly went to the room where mirrors were everywhere, her focus room. As soon as she entered, she started shouting loudly, Speak. Who are you? What do you want from me? Show yourself. For a while, there was no response. Then suddenly, a creepy hand emerged from one of the mirrors and grabbed Valerie from behind. The hand belonged to the entity Sanchi. Now, it fully revealed itself in front of her. In a scary, echoing voice it said, "I will never let you go." It tightly grabbed Valerie and placed a sharp knife on her neck. Valerie trembled at the horrifying truth. Terrified, she screamed loudly. Her scream was so loud that it woke up Robbie, who had been sleeping. But as soon as he tried to get up, he found himself bound to the bed. He tried to free his hands and legs, shouting Valerie's name. Meanwhile, Valerie was mentally broken. She started thinking, if I cut my hand, maybe I'll never try to scratch my head again, maybe this will all stop. She placed her hand under a cutter machine and marked it. A heavy iron cutter was placed on top. She told herself, just once, I need to be brave. But how could anyone hurt themselves this much? She tried several times, but at the last moment, she pulled her hand back. Tears flowed from her eyes. But then she reminded herself of the pain, her mother's death, her loneliness, her insanity, and she quickly approached the machine. She closed her eyes and in one swift motion, placed her hand under the cutter and turned it on. Valerie's hand was cut off. The sharp pain made her scream. Blood started gushing out and her condition worsened. Her own blood fell on her face, making her look even more terrifying. She tried to bind her wound with bandages to stop the bleeding. When the bleeding slowed, she wiped the blood off her face. Her breathing was heavy. She was in pain, but giving up wasn't an option. She then started thinking of cutting her other hand as well, so she would never scratch her head again and Sanchi wouldn't gain strength. Lost in these thoughts, Sanchi suddenly appeared from behind and grabbed her. But this time, Valerie wasn't scared. Sanchi hissed near her neck, saying, I'll devour you. I'll drink your blood drop by drop. Valerie calmly engaged him in conversation, and during that time, she quickly grabbed his hand and placed it under the same cutter machine she had used to cut her first hand. The loud sound of the machine reached Robbie. He started moving anxiously in his room, but was still bound. Valerie was now fully ready for a fight. Even after cutting her hand, she didn't rest. She grabbed the cutter machine and began attacking Sanchi. She kept cutting him over and over. It felt like everything was going to end now, but it didn't. All the parts of Sanchi's body she had cut started regenerating, meaning they reattached themselves. Now, Sanchi looked even more terrifying. For the first time, Valerie truly felt fear. She tried to drag herself away, running towards the door, but Sanchi grabbed her again and said, I will never let you go. Valerie, trembling, replied, no one is going to survive this. She dragged herself towards the water tank and with one swift move, jumped in. Sanchi jumped into the water after her. But here, Valerie found the answer she had been waiting for all these years. Water was Sanchi's biggest weakness. Sanchi started to squirm and thrash around in the water. Valerie grabbed his hand tightly and tried to drown him. Now she understood why her mother had jumped into the water that day. She had gone to kill Sanchi. Today, all the truth was revealed to her. Her mother's death wasn't murder, but a sacrifice, and her father wasn't to blame. Meanwhile, Robbie somehow managed to free himself and rushed to the water tank. He saw Valerie drowning. Without wasting any time, he jumped into the water and pulled Valerie out. When Robbie pulled Valerie out of the water, he noticed a small, black child in her hand. It was a younger version of Sanchi. This meant that Sanchi had now become completely weak. Robbie threw the childlike Sanchi back into the water, and his body dissolved in the water. Finally, the terrifying cycle had ended. Post-credits scene. A few months later, Valerie is shown. She now has a small baby. Her hand, which had been cut off before, is now reattached after surgery. She looks completely fine and is lovingly feeding her child. But as the camera moves closer to her child's face, a small black dot near its eye is visible. A buck. This leaves the question unanswered. Was Sanchi really defeated? And the movie ends here. If you enjoyed our content, please subscribe and stay tuned for the next explanation.